Hi, everybody. This is Tommy Lasorda. Listen to the Sandlot, the best thing that could happen to you.
The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Are you crying?
It's a part of our past, Ray.
There's no crying.
It reminds us of all that once was good.
There's no crying in baseball.
Just a bit outside.
Baseball will be very, very good to me.
It's a simple game. You throw the ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball.
Personally, I think we got holes on that.
The Sandlot Radio Network is on the air. And now, starting pitcher for the Sandlot, former pro player and Major League scout, Ted Howard.
This is National League All-Star Justin Upton.
Hi, this is Shane Victorino.
Hi, this is Albert Pujols.
Hi, this is David Wright.
It's Derek Jeter of the New York Yankees, and you're listening to The Sandlot.
Welcome to the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast. The Sandlot, it's where everybody plays. It's a place of our own. It's our field. It's our neighborhood. It's our team. It's our home. The Sandlot is presented by Terramar Collective and sponsored by the Sandlot Radio Network, Grit Sports Collective, Guzman y Gomez, and Freestyle Pool Sydney. You can tune into the Sandlot every weekend on Sirius XM Radio MLB Network podcast platform and on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Pandora, Apple Music, and Simplecast. Last week's Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast featured another legend in Australian baseball. He's an Australian Baseball League, Baseball Australia, and Western Australian Institute of Sport Hall of Famer. We had all the way from Perth, Tony Adamson. This week on the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast, an old teammate of mine from Central Illinois that made it all the way to the big leagues. He's the owner of Samp's Hack Shack and the Midwest holder of the Canes franchise, Bill Sampen. We also have former Major League catcher who played in the big leagues with the Arizona Diamondbacks, Pittsburgh Pirates, and for the Houston Astros. He's from Houston, Chris Snyder. We're going to start you off with American Legion Post 263 star, a big leaguer with the Montreal Expos, Kansas City Royals, and California Angels, Bill Sampen. William Albert Sampen. He's Billy Sampen from Central Illinois, where I remember you. Billy, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast.
I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Billy, when we were kids in Central Illinois, I had the radio, and once in a while I'd get a game on TV. And I had a grandfather that taught me about box scores when I was really, really young. So one of the things I did when the paper hit the front porch, that was my wake-up call, and I'd go grab it and I'd read the box scores. And being kids in our era, in that part of the country, we had to create things to do to be busy. And for me and you, it was baseball. Let's talk about some of the things that you did that set yourself apart from those other kids in Hartsburg, Emden, that were on farms, because most of that town is farmland.
Yeah, that whole area is farmland. In fact, pretty much everybody in that community comes from a family of farmers. So there's not a lot of outside activity. You have to create your own entertainment, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you think about the size of the high school that you went to. You mentioned, I think you said 88 kids in the school when you graduated, and there's been times when it's been up over 100. But you mentioned now it's 66 kids in the school, and they're still operating. And that's pretty cool to have a kid come from a school that small in Central Illinois and make it all the way to the major leagues.
Yeah, I think I was probably like most kids when you're really young, you have the dream of, if you're a sports fan, you have the dream of playing, in my case, Major League Baseball. But I don't think that I ever thought that was feasible. I think coming from a small area, it seems like it's bigger than reality, that it's not really something that's going to happen. So I literally just played baseball, basketball because I love to play baseball and basketball, and did a lot of things on a daily basis, creating a situation where I'm in the 7th game of the World Series or I'm in the NBA Finals and playing by myself. I just played it because I loved it, and fortunately for me, I got to play it longer than I probably envisioned I would have the opportunity to do.
And being a kid in a small town, and how you have sisters, so you had to do a lot of stuff on yourself, but you also would spend time with some of the other kids in the neighborhood, inventing games that were what we didn't know at the time were going to help us become really good baseball players because of the repetitions. We did it so much that it translated into development, probably more so than any practice or games that we played in at that age, you know?
Yeah, I think so, because the number of practices you're going to have for summer league teams are pretty limited. Like you said, I had two sisters, so they were 5 and 10 years older than me. They obviously had no interest in playing baseball, so I did a few things myself. I had our steps to our house was about 4 concrete steps and a little sidewalk that led out to our driveway. So I'd get a glove and a rubber ball and throw the ball against those steps all day long, all different kinds of balls. My parents were really cool. I broke a few windows and I didn't get in trouble for it. They just replaced the window and let me have at it. But I did that all the time, and I look back, there were some rough spots on the steps, so the ball might hit an edge, so it would carry them differently. It would, be a pop-up, be a line drive, be a one-hopper, be a ground ball. So it just gave me a chance to throw and react and catch baseballs and learn how to field them. Not because there was any instruction or because it was a game situation, literally a game situation. I created my own, and I look back at it and think that's a lot of where I developed hand-eye coordination and reaction time and so forth. And then you mentioned the kids in town. I had a buddy of mine, Doug, that we played wiffle ball for almost every day, and we set a fence up. We had dimensions on it. We made our rules, put a lawn chair behind the plate, as a strike zone, and we'd emulate the players, our favorite players, and we just competed. We competed against each other. We had fun. We would set up wiffle ball tournaments where 2-on-2 wiffle ball tournaments, and he and I played it every day, so we knew we had an advantage here. We'd have a tournament. We'd charge a $2 entry fee, and you had to bring a wiffle ball with you. And we knew we were going to win that tournament because we played it all the time. But, again, just competing and hand-eye and learning how to control your arm and throwing from different angles. And then sometimes we'd call guys, and we'd meet in town at Luther Field in Emden. We'd meet in there, call your own field, call your field. We'd have 4 or 5 guys on a team. And just anything we could do to compete. I'd ride my bicycle into town. Sometimes if I got lazy, I'd ride my lawnmower in there about 1.5 miles. It looked like a total hillbilly thing to do. I had my glove and my bat on there, but we were just playing something all the time. And fortunately, my dad was very understanding. I worked with him on the farm, but if I was going to go play baseball or something, he was totally cool with that. But looking back, not only was it great fun, I think in an indirect way, it just sort of inherently taught you how to compete and how to react to balls and, how to find a barrel and so forth. So not organized in terms of a team, but it was a way for us to just compete.
And you mentioned one of those guys, Doug Hobbs, who I ended up playing with as well. And he's a lefty-lefty, so he had a different perspective as a hitter and as a pitcher for you than most other guys. So you had the fortune of seeing left-handed movement and all that at a young age and frequently, because not everybody has a lefty in their group because they're so rare.
That's true.
But you had one, and he was funky. So that created a little extra for you.
Yeah. Again, sort of some advanced training that you had no idea was advanced at the time. You're just playing with what you got, and but you're right, it does give you a look from a different perspective, and both from the plate and from the mound when you're pitching. So kind of some inherent benefits there that don't really realize at the time. Just doing what you do and figuring it out along the way.
We talked before about, and I've had conversations with very few people that even know what detasseling corn means, but because you lived on your farm and your dad was cool, you never had to do it. Weeding beans is one of the things you got to do, but that's simple compared to detasseling corn. So I want to pat your dad on the back up in there and make sure that he knows that was the cool thing, because the rest of us go do that corn job. And to this day, it's the hardest thing I ever did. But, man, talk about building character. You make it through a day of detasseling corn, you're a tough kid.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I didn't have to do it. We actually had seed corn on our farm, so I had a little bit of guilt, not a lot, but a little bit of guilt when I'd look out and I'd see people out there right outside my house in our field of seed corn, and they're detasseling, and I didn't have to do that. I don't know how I dodged that bullet, but somehow I did. So I did a lot of baling hay, baling straw, working in the fields and walking beans. But I am not sorry that I missed the detasseling corn opportunity.
And I got to admit, there's one reason for that. Your dad knew how crappy of a job it was. He knew that out of all the things that you do on that farm, it is the one job that a human being should not do. And so the Fuller Seed Company decided, well, as long as you're 12, that's probably old enough for us to send you out there.
Yeah, it seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. So
I don't know what you're complaining about.
You're right. To this day, it is probably the thing that made me a tough human being. I've survived that 4 summers, so my goodness. Now,
yeah, and you're making what, $3 an hour?
$3.10, and you get a 10-cent raise for every year that you were loyal to Fuller Seed Company, and that meant $3.20, right. $3.30. I made one year. Man, I was raking.
So you were raking. You were raking cash and building a bank account.
Well, and we also learned about taxes then, because that $23 a day got taxed down to about $18.50.
There you go. You not only got paid, you got an education.
Yeah, it was all of a sudden. It's like, wait a minute, I worked this many hours, I got paid this much. What's this? What are they doing? They're taking my money. The federal government. I'm 12.
Yeah, I didn't get taxed on mine.
Oh yeah, because it came from Dad. It's a different story, man.
Yeah,
Fuller Seed Company was that was the Monsanto of the day.
Yeah, I'm thankful I avoided that, all of it, the work and the taxes, for a while. Catching up for it now.
Now, we have to mention, when I was summer before my sophomore year, summer before your junior year, you get cut from the Legion team and you end up playing on the senior league team with me. You're 2 years older. You're the guy on the team. I watched you dominate all that summer while I sat on the bench and played my 2 innings. And, and luckily every time I came up there, somehow I barreled the ball and got a hit, but 15 at bats or something, it's not going to translate. But man, that summer was the first time I'd seen somebody dominate and through my eyes see someone that I felt was different and had a chance to do something. And you didn't even make the Legion team. I think that's a really good story to tell the kids, because you end up being a major leaguer that didn't make his Legion team the first year.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about it too. There were some players on that Legion team that I knew, and I knew they were really good players, and I was looking forward to having the opportunity to play alongside of them rather than against them like I had in high school. But I mean, yeah, there was probably 5 school districts, I guess, that fed into our Legion team, and that was travel baseball of that day. So coming from a really small high school, I was looking forward to that opportunity. I was a shortstop pitcher, and I can still remember the phone call that I got from Coach Thornton that day. I can remember where I was. I remember the color of the telephone and all of that, telling me that, and he was cool about it, but telling me that I wasn't going to make the team and, maybe an opportunity next year. So that was pretty devastating to me because I looked forward to it. But I played baseball and I played basketball because I loved to play baseball and I loved to play basketball. So it didn't deter me from continuing to play. I think like most of us, I grew up a Cardinal fan in Central Illinois there, and I'd always dreamed of playing for the Cardinals. But in my mind, that was just a dream. So it wasn't like that dashed my long-term plan of being a Major League Baseball player. So I signed up for the Senior League, which I would compare to, Little League Baseball for high school age kids is kind of what it was. Not nearly as competitive. We didn't travel. It was an in-house league. I don't necessarily remember that I dominated. I'll take your word for that one. But it was just an opportunity to continue playing baseball, and that's really all that I cared about at that time. Had the opportunity to make the team the next year, but it was probably my first, major setback in baseball. So it rocked my world a little bit and rocked my confidence, but fortunately, I just kept playing because I wanted to play. And so it worked out in the end, but it was a rough patch for me for a minute. And frankly, that's life. So I think if I look back on it, it probably was a really good thing. I think it probably was the right decision by Coach Thornton. I probably wasn't ready to compete at that level. And so, it's like most things in life. If you just endure and work and work through it, it works out for you in the end.
He's former Major Leaguer Bill Sampen. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We have more from Bill right here on the Sandlot Down Under podcast when we return. I'm your host, Tad Powers.
Hi, this is Todd Helton, and I still listen to the Sandlot.
This is Ryan Braun from the Milwaukee Brewers, and you're listening to the Sandlot.
This is Nate McLeod, National League All-Star with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and you're listening to the Sandlot.
This is Mike Cameron from the Milwaukee Brewers, and I'm still listening to the Sandlot.
I think I'll go on and walk about and find out what it's all about.
Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective.
GYG has just reinvented the Caesar with our new Caesar salad, Caesar burrito, and Caesar Cali burrito. And I bet you didn't know that Caesar was created in Tijuana, Mexico over 100 years ago by Caesar Cardini. And now we have made the Caesar uniquely GYG. Crunchy Cos lettuce, free-range grilled chicken, or gourmet Caesar dressing, shredded jack cheese, and GYG's corn chips crushed. GYG Caesar, created in Mexico, reinvented by GYG.
When it comes to building your dream pool, experience matters. For 33 years, Freestyle Pools Sydney has delivered quality pools that stand the test of time. Brothers Rob and Ben personally manage every job from start to finish, working closely with skilled, reliable tradies who take pride in their work. With regular industry award-winning builds, the quality of Freestyle Pools truly stands out. Experience, craftsmanship, and service you can trust. Freestyle Pools Sydney, built for life.
Hi, everybody. This is Rick Mundy, former Major League player, former All-Star, and now broadcaster with the Los Angeles Dodgers. You're tuned in exactly where you need to be. It's Sandlot, and it's baseball.
Talking baseball, the man and Bobby fella, the Scooter, the Barber, and the Duke. They knew them all from Boston to Dubuque.
Especially Shohei, Mookie, and the Judge.
We're back with former Major League pitcher Bill Sampen. Bill, thanks for sticking around and being a guest on the Sandlot.
Glad to be here.
And we were talking about before the break that making the Legion team, how devastating that was, but you just persevered. Out of high school, you decide you want to play college, but there's nothing lined up. So let's talk about the walk-on process for you in college and what it led to, because you walked onto into a program that wasn't that great, but your very first year, you won games, and the team had a hard time winning games. But when you were on the mound, they did. So there was some shining moments for Bill as a freshman in college, and you had to walk on.
Yeah, coming out of high school, I didn't have any offers. I had a couple of, I wouldn't say offers. I had some interest from a couple of small schools in basketball, but no one had talked to me about baseball at all. So I first went to Indiana Wesleyan, and, my thought process was I'll play two sports there, or at least try. I started doing some open gym stuff and decided I wasn't going to play basketball. And the truth of it is I wasn't ready for college. Didn't really lock in like I should have. Kind of went through some growing pains there. So I decided at the semester I would kind of bail out of there and start fresh. That's when I transferred to McMurray College. I was familiar with it. One of my high school coaches had gone there. One of my sisters had attended there for a bit, so I was familiar with it. And yeah, I just showed up. They didn't know I was coming. Saw a sign for a baseball meeting, so I went to it. And pretty low level program. It was Division III, but pretty low level even within that division. We didn't have a fence. We put a snow fence up for the outfield fence. We didn't have dugouts. Coach, really good dude, probably volunteer for all I know, really good guy. And yeah, we weren't very good. I did win some games. I think we won 11 games, and I won 7 of those as a freshman. Have any idea what I was doing? I was just going out there throwing. But again, I didn't really care that it wasn't a great program. I was playing baseball. I did get to play baseball and basketball there. So for me, I was pretty much fulfilling my dream in that I was continuing to play sports that I loved to play, and the level of it didn't really matter to me. The fact that I was getting to play was enough, and the fact that we weren't very good, I didn't like it. I didn't love that because I'm like everybody else. I hate to lose, but it was what it was, and it got me the opportunity to continue to play.
And to the point where by the time you're ready to finish school, you're going to have an opportunity. Small town, Emden, Hartsburg, 88 kids in the class, and you're going to get a chance to go play pro ball. What did that mean to the family when you got that call?
Well, we probably were all shocked. I noticed my senior year that there were some scouts at our games, and to be honest with you, the first thing that went through my mind was, why are these guys here? There's nobody on that team. I was talking about the opponent because I didn't think I knew there was nobody on our team they were watching. I thought there's nobody on that team that's very good. Why are they here watching? And after about the third time they showed up, I started to realize they're only showing up when I'm pitching. Maybe they're here to see me. And I never talked to a scout. I never had any conversation. And so we'd go through the season. I noticed they'd been at several games, but again, had no talk with any of them. So I'm playing basketball at a buddy's house. There's about 3 or 4 of us over there, and we're playing. And this guy's mom comes out and says, "Hey, Billy," that's what everybody called me. "Hey, Billy, your mom's on the phone." And the first thing that went through my mind, dude, I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I in trouble?
Yeah,
and I went in. I wasn't
call
even
other moms' houses very often, unless you were in trouble.
No, that usually wasn't a good thing. No. So I thought, man, I don't know what this is about. So I get on the phone. She's like, "Hey, the Pirates just called and they drafted you in the 12th round." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool. Talk to you later." I went back out and played basketball because I honestly didn't really know what that meant. I didn't know, does that really mean I'm going to go play? No idea. Total ignorance on my part. And, come to find out, Gene Baker was the scout that had drafted me, former player for the Cubs and the Pirates, and met him for the first time at the Holiday Inn in Lincoln, Illinois. Took us to dinner, offered me the $3,000 signing bonus that they had for me. And I'm like, dude, somebody's giving me $3,000. All right. There was no negotiation. I was fired up, but I still really didn't know what all I was in for. Hadn't done anything at a high level. I played slow pitch softball every summer during my college years because I couldn't get on any college teams. So, had no idea what I was really walking into. But I signed a contract and, went from there.
Just like me, I'm pretty sure you didn't have any spring training experience until you were a player. And, man, it's pretty overwhelming. You kind of think you know a little bit about the game, and you get to spring training, and your 180 guys are with you. And there's a certain time you got to be there, and there's a certain amount of things you have to bring when you go. And I'm just, following the pack, and I'm clueless. Was it the same for you, that first spring training down there in Bradenton?
It was overwhelming. Being a baseball fan, I had, watched the College World Series and so forth. And I get to spring training and, it seems like there's a million people there. And you're right, it's overwhelming. You don't know what to pack. You have no idea what you're getting into. But then I start seeing, okay, this guy was drafted from here and this guy was drafted from here. It's like, dude, what am I even doing here? I'm from McMurray College. People go, "Hey, where'd you go to school?" "McMurray." "Where's that at?" Yeah, nobody knows. So it's just it's a big sea of the unknown. And I wouldn't trade any of that. Just having to go through the level of discomfort of all of that and knowing absolutely no one, knowing nothing about anyone, being with 3 other guys in a room that's slightly bigger than a jail cell with 2 bunk beds, and just figuring out how to interact and how to navigate all of that. It was honestly the best lessons that I've ever had in my life, and the best teacher of how to handle adversity and injury and disappointment and failure. You can't teach that. You can't teach that in a classroom. So it really made me start, at least, to kind of grow up and have some responsibility, and kind of fend for myself, like I hadn't had to do before.
Yeah, it really is a transition. And, man, you really feel like after 4 years of college and playing Legion and all that, you know something about the game. And it is such a slap in the face when you get there and you realize how little you really do know. And the more spring trainings you go to, the more you learn, the more comfort you get. And I got to say that being in a minor league game, too, the first one I ever saw was the one I was playing in. It's not like I had a whole lot of exposure to even minor league baseball as a kid. So that was also a thing where you show up and you're playing in a minor league game and you'd never even seen one before.
Well, yeah, and it's so different, obviously, back then than what it is now in terms of, the facilities. I've shown pictures to my kids in the past. They're like, "Yeah, this is a AA field." And they're like, "What? That's a professional field?" "Yeah, that was AA." You're a hop, skip, and a jump from the big leagues. And I was just telling my boys yesterday that, the best clubhouse that I ever played in in the minor leagues was in Double-A, and our clubhouse was a trailer. That was the best facility I ever had as a player. Didn't really that didn't bother me. I didn't know any better. But again, just navigating all of that and showing up at a minor league game and there's 17 people there. Yeah, it's just not, when you have a dream of playing in the major leagues at that time. You had no feel for what professional baseball was like. I'd been to St. Louis Cardinal games, and that's really cool. The path there on the surface isn't very cool, especially in that day. It's an eye opener, and it's the survival of the fittest. That the hotels that we stayed in, the rite of passage that you had to walk through at that time was really, really, really good for me, and prepared me in so many ways, I think, to handle some situations in life as well.
The Rule 5 draft was a good thing for Bill because you go from the Pirates to the Montreal Expos and you end up in the big leagues pretty quick. And that first year in the big leagues, you go 12-7, which was the most wins of any Expos pitcher. And they had Oil Can Boyd and Dennis Martinez and even Kevin Gross as the other starters. And you had the most wins. So you're off to a stellar start in Montreal going 12-7 as a rookie.
Yeah, again, you don't see that coming, right? I was really fortunate when the Rule 5 draft. It was the year of the lockout, so spring training was delayed. I'd never been to a big league camp, so that was another episode of what am I doing in the clubhouse with Tim Raines and Tim Wallach and Andres Galarraga and guys like that. Larry Walker, who was also he was a rookie as well. Just the overwhelming at first. But then, you got to strap it on and go to work. But yeah, I made the club out of spring training. They had to expand the rosters due to the lockout, which probably played in my favor. And then I start to get in some games. And the truth is I had 12 wins, but that was, to no credit of mine, that was the makeup of that team. That team stuck around in games, and I'd come into games when we were down a run or two, and they were scrappers at the plate and figured out ways to win. So I was the recipient. I got the W by my name, but those were team names. Those were team wins. That all I did was maybe hold the team, keep them close, and those guys just they were very professional hitters and very professional players, and they figured out ways to come back. Made me look better than I was, but I'm not giving those wins back either.
No kidding. And then you go 9-5 the next year for the Expos, and they trade you Kansas City, and you spend time with Kansas City and even California Angels. At the time, they were the California Angels. And so we're talking about a career that lasts long enough for you to get 25 major league wins, and you have a winning record in the big leagues. You have a 3.73 lifetime ERA. Those are all very, very awesome numbers. And from a small town, Central Illinois, Hartsburg-Emden kid to be able to do that, Billy, what an achievement. And, we always think about how do we make this longer? Man, it was as long as it was supposed to be, and it was perfect.
Yeah, I was at the major league level for 5 seasons longer than I thought I would ever be. So I was very, very fortunate to get the opportunity. Are there things I would do differently? Of course, that's life. But I was really, really fortunate and met some great people, played alongside some great players, had some coaches that I just sat and listened to, picked their brain, and really learned the game at a level that I didn't even know existed. So the chance, the fact that I had that opportunity and got to experience that is, the gratitude that I have for Gene Baker, who saw something in me that I didn't see, and for Bob Johnson, who was the Expo scout that recommended they take me in the Rule 5 draft. I couldn't thank those guys enough just for believing in me.
Well, unbelievable career, Bill. And now, you've had a son that's played in the minor leagues. You had 2 boys that played very serious levels of baseball. They're still working with you at the Sam's Hack Shack and Canes Midwest, and you've got a really cool operation over there now. And now you get to help kids understand the path, get them ready physically and mentally for it. And, both of us are in this development thing that really gives opportunities to kids if they want them. And I always tell kids, I don't count any of you out because I don't know who's going to do the work. I don't know who's working when nobody's watching, because that's, for me and you, what made a difference for us as kids.
Well, yeah, and the first of all, the fact that I'm still in baseball is a blessing beyond measure. To get to continue to stay in the game, and then hopefully present some opportunities for kids and families. And again, the end goal for me isn't like, hey, let's see how many guys get to the big leagues. That's on them. But to present opportunities for them to experience the same things that I did, to learn the same lessons, to learn, discipline, to learn how to handle failure, to learn how to do things when you don't feel like doing them and don't want to do them. Those are things that can carry you through your life and help you be successful as a human being. If you get the chance to continue to do that for a longer period of time in baseball, that's awesome. But you're going to have to deal with those things in some facet of life, whether you stop playing or not. So that to me is what's really cool. It's really cool about it, and I'm thankful we have the opportunity to do it.
He's Bill Sampen. He's a former Major League player. He was a teammate of mine when I was only 14 years old. And, Bill, I just want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast. It's been a pleasure having you. And now that we've reconnected, I just want to think that we can do a lot of things to continue to give the youth of our country opportunities in this game. Because, if anything, it builds great character. And kids that play this game even at the high school level, they go on to achieve really good things in their life because they've accomplished something that required some serious perseverance and focus.
Yeah, I totally agree. I went back to my high school a couple of years ago and spoke to the student body, and I asked them if they had a favorite classroom in the building. We were in the gymnasium. And I said, this and that baseball field out there were my two favorite classrooms. It's what really taught me. That's not to put, to speak down of the actual classroom. I took that very seriously too, but those are where I really learned the lessons that probably have been very beneficial to me in my life. And so to give people the opportunity to experience that same thing is really, really cool.
Yeah, Billy.
Hello, everyone. This is Tony Adamson from Perth, Western Australia. I listen to the Sandlot. I'm a baseballer, Hall of Fame member in the Australian Baseball Federation, West Australian Baseball Hall of Fame, and also the West Australian Sporting Hall of Champions. Happy to be on, and I've really enjoyed it. Thanks, Ted.
Hey, this is Mark Dollymore here, representative of Cronulla Baseball back in the day. Proud member to be on the Sandlot Baseball show today. I hope you enjoyed what you heard and just live on it. Keep going on, keep trying hard, all the best.
When it comes to building your dream pool, experience matters. For 33 years, Freestyle Pools Sydney has delivered quality pools that stand the test of time. Brothers Rob and Ben personally manage every job from start to finish, working closely with skilled, reliable tradies who take pride in their work. With regular industry award-winning builds, the quality of Freestyle Pools truly stands out. Experience, craftsmanship, and service you can trust. Freestyle Pools Sydney, built for life. Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective.
GYG has just reinvented the Caesar with our new Caesar salad, Caesar burrito, and Caesar Cali burrito. And I bet you didn't know that Caesar was created in Tijuana, Mexico over 100 years ago by Cesar Cardini. And now we have made the Caesar uniquely GYG.
Crunchy Cos lettuce, free-range grilled chicken, or gourmet Caesar dressing, shredded jack cheese, and GYG's corn chips crushed. GYG Caesar, created in Mexico, reinvented by GYG.
Hey everybody, this is Trevor Hoffman, a Hall of Famer and a San Diego Padre, and you're listening to The Sandlot.
We're with former Major League catcher Chris Snyder. Chris, thanks so much for being a guest on The Sandlot.
I appreciate you having me on.
Now, we have a mutual friend named Andy Tomberlin, and Andy and I have been doing stuff together since the late 80s. And there's certain guys in your life that you just keep in touch with because of the rapport you build as teammates or even opponents. And Andy's one of those guys for me, and I know he's our connection to each other, so I want to thank Andy too. So one of the things that we start out with is we want to know, when Chris Snyder was a little guy, what was it that made him love baseball, the teams that you had exposure to, and the players that you admired as a kid?
So I grew up in Houston, so obviously that made me a big Astros fan. And in the mid-'80s, the rainbow jersey, the old school Astros, it's hard not to be a lifelong fan of Nolan Ryan and what he's accomplished, what he's done. You get to move on through into the next decade. Then you get the Craig Biggio, Jeff Bagwell. I watched those guys. I ended up fortunate to play against those guys. One of the coolest experiences I think I had was I was with Arizona, and we were in Houston on the night that they were retiring Biggio's jersey. So I was down in the bullpen getting ready for the game to play the Astros, and they have a big ceremony. I was able to be there, see it all. I mean, as a guy I followed, that was one of my favorites, knowing baseball. Yeah.
You know, as a youngster too, you got the Astros right there, and you got these great players, future Hall of Famers to admire. But there's something that's going on in the backyard that creates some passion too. Let's talk about Sandlot days, maybe some of the venues that you created situations for improvement, and some of the characters that you might have done it with. Because my Sandlot days, we had some characters that went on to do some really cool things, and a lot of it had to do with how dedicated we were to our development, playing different games in the backyard.
So I'll give a lot of credit for the patience they showed when I was growing up as a kid. But my dad and my grandpa, my dad's dad, both played a huge part. I stayed, as a young kid, I stayed with my grandparents after school all throughout the summer. And my grandpa would have to replace every year his driveway because it was pea gravel. So I would just go out there, and he'd give me one of the big barrel plastic bats, and I would just bust rocks into neighbors' backyards. I mean, it was, and I never, if anybody came over or got mad that I put it, I never heard it. He never told me. He just said, "Go ahead, swing away." My dad played slow pitch softball. So I basically lived at the Cloverleaf fields that he would go play on 2 nights a week, every weekend, and he'd give me $5 worth of quarters, and I'd bring a bat, a tennis ball in my glove, and I would just go find kids that could play. And I think that playing, because you're stuck in between those fields, so there's not a whole lot of room, and it's basically just straight on. And you're not wanting to upset the guys playing softball games with tennis balls and stuff like that flying on the field. So for me, I had to really learn how to hit the ball hard, straight on, up the middle. So I think that just kind of helped me out with a lot of the barrel to ball skill that, became huge as I grew up. Inside, my dad and my grandpa would take socks and put rubber bands around him. I mean, he could barely lift his shoulders up, but he would hook shot socks to me while I'm just, whacking away with a piece of plywood or a wiffle ball bat or something like that. And my dad and I would always make games in the living room, and any kind of little Nerf ball, and we'd figure out a way to do it, man. And that's kind of what gave me the bug, and I wanted to keep going. I loved it.
Did you visualize yourself as a future major league player at some point during all this?
I think so. I'm sure I did. Growing up, going to the Astros games, I got to be in the Dome. My first game I ever went to was Mike Scott's no-hitter against the Giants.
No way.
Which I was like 5 years old. I remember a ton of it, but so being able to witness Mike Scott's no-hitter and growing up going to games at the Astrodome, Minute Maid Park as I got older, and having baseball just readily available down in Houston, you can't throw a stone without hitting a baseball game somewhere. It was easy to fall in love with. And there were guys that I played with in Little League my first year as 5-6 years old that played college ball at University of Houston. There's guys I played with when I was 11, 12, 13 that I played against in the big leagues. I mean, it was, you see the path that we all took, and it's pretty amazing to sit back and think about it, that we were the kids that were just playing around, having fun with it, and then we're the same kids getting to do it at the professional level, big league level even.
That is really cool. And growing up in that part of the country, baseball was outstanding. The weather was conducive with playing a lot. And growing up in Houston, going to University of Houston, and later on in your career getting to actually play for the Houston Astros, a team that you grew up watching, loving, and, you know, maybe visualize being there one day. You end up having a chance to put that uni on as well. It wasn't the only one, though. We're talking about big league uniforms from Arizona Diamondbacks, Pittsburgh Pirates, Houston Astros, and also the Baltimore Orioles. So that's a lot of big league unis. And then you think about the path through the minor leagues. There's a lot of those hanging in that closet as well.
There are. So I was, I came out my junior year from University of Houston and went to high A with the Arizona Diamondbacks, which was in Lancaster, California. So I spent a little bit of time there, about a year and a half, and I got the call up to Double A, and it's about another year and a half in El Paso, and being in the right place at the right time, doing all the right things. I got the call in August of 2004. So, and it was amazing. It really was. Stepping into the dugout, seeing the lights, and knowing that I'm going back in the locker room. I have a locker, I have a jersey, and it's go time. This is how it's real, and it was amazing, for sure.
What was it like for the family when you made that major league debut? That's one of the things I always like to ask guys, because it can be emotional for them.
Yeah, it was. My wife made the trip out, and she there to be able to be a part of it. And it was my family. They came in a little bit later in the summer to watch, but there it was. I got the call on August 18th, but I didn't debut until the 21st. We had an off day, and then Randy Johnson was pitching. So I would, there's no way I was going to be catching Randy Johnson in my debut. That wasn't happening. So I ended up, for my debut, I ended up catching Brandon Webb, who still to this day is one of my really close friends. We keep in contact and each other, relive all the glory days when we were young and happy to be there.
I know the guy, Scott Jaster, that signed Brandon Webb, and, he was kind of an underdog at the time when he signed him, and that's a heavy sinker he threw. Did he come close to breaking your thumb? Because I threw a heavy sinker, too, in my first spring training. I broke a couple thumbs, and I thought I was in trouble. And they're like, no, man, hey, we love that heavy sink.
Oh, yeah. He would bust me up a couple times. Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I think I definitely started working hard the more I caught him.
No doubt about that. And, you think about being a big league catcher, there's so much different things that you see that nobody else sees. Your perspective on the game, because you're looking at the whole field. Everybody else got their back, facing the plate, and you got your back. You're facing the field, so your perspective's different. But then the stuff that you see from right-handers, left-handers, you got left-handed sidearmers, left-handed sinker ballers, you got right-handed submariners. You got all these different arm angles, different movements, different velocities, and you have to adjust to that. And what makes catchers have longevity is their catch and throw ability. Hitting's a bonus, but man, catching and throwing is so vital to that position. And I always tell players, it's one of the easiest roads to the big leagues if you can endure it and become a really good catch and throw guy.
Yeah, 100%. From the time I was in high school through college, when it kind of started I started getting the sense that professional baseball was a good possibility. I locked full in on my defensive abilities, catch and throw, how I handled the pitching staff, everything behind the plate. But, it's funny you talk about all the different abilities the pitchers have and the stuff that they have. I would think the hardest part is honestly dealing with the different personalities that come in one after the other. That's what makes you're a psychologist back there. You got to get the best out of these guys. And more times than not, they're not having the best day. You got to find a way to get through to them, to get it all out of them and get the best out of them. So that was, that's what I enjoyed the most. And I think that's what coaching or something in the future, I think dealing with those personalities is something that I like doing. I enjoy that part of it, and definitely want to continue doing that.
Out of all the roster, a lot of times the pitchers are the most quirky, and especially lefties. For some reason, lefties are weird, and they just act different. They wear their half different. They're goofy-footed, the whole bit. But the movement and the velocities and all that stuff, people have no idea how hard that job is behind the dish.
Yep, it is.
Another thing I got to ask you. This new style of catching down on one knee, start with the glove on the ground and then pull it up at the last second. I hate it as a pitcher because I like my guy to shift early, get in the middle of his body on the outside corner, inside corner, and then I had his whole body to throw to. And give me that target and just hold it there and I'm going to hit it. But all this, ripping it up at the last second, I don't like it, Chris.
It's that big bad A word that guys that played a while ago that we all hate, the big analytics. Look, man, I've talked to pitchers, I've talked to umpires. I actually had a really good conversation with a big league umpire about a week ago. We sat down and had lunch, and I wanted to talk to him because I have to teach these guys. I coach my son's high school team, and I got 2 kids that are going off to college, and they get there, that's what they're going to be taught. So I have to adapt my style of the way I caught, which was 100% not what is done today or anything like that, to what they need to learn to get to the next level. And I bit the bullet. I teach them from a knee down. I teach them blocking from a knee down, the framing, the receiving, and presenting. I minimize their movement. I tell them we have different quadrants and different zones from the middle out to just off the plate. And I told them I don't want you moving it further than 2 zones in. If you're below the zone, pull it just to the zone. If the ball's in the middle, it's a strike. You're not going to have to move it anywhere.
Stick it.
Yeah, just stick it, present it. It looks good. The umpire the conversation I had with him, he said he actually came training across the catcher a couple of years ago that was doing it a little bit more old-fashioned. And saying old-fashioned, but 10 years ago. And he said his strike call percentage, because I was calling pitches too rough because they was just sticking it. And I'm calling it a strike because it looks good. He's catching it in the middle of his body. It looks good. And I was calling it. I got my report after the game. He said I got crushed.
G'day, I'm Jake Burns, professional player for the Brisbane Bandits, and I listen to the Sandlot.
Do you want more than just wins for your kids? Do you want confidence, character, and grit? At Grit Sports Collective, we help young athletes play with purpose and train with passion. With elite coaching in baseball and basketball, we're building more than skills, we're building competitors. Because greatness starts with mindset and is earned through sweat. Grit Sports Collective. Play fierce, train harder. Now enrolling in San Diego, California. Visit gritsportscollective.com and sign up today. Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective.
GYG has just reinvented the Caesar with our new Caesar salad, Caesar burrito, and Caesar Cali burrito. And I bet you didn't know that Caesar was created in Tijuana, Mexico over 100 years ago by Caesar Cardini. And now we have made the Caesar uniquely GYG.
Crunchy cos lettuce, free-range grilled chicken, or gourmet Caesar dressing, shredded jack cheese, and GYG's corn chips crushed. GYG Caesar, created in Mexico, reinvented by GYG.
When it comes to building your dream pool, experience matters. For 33 years, Freestyle Pools Sydney has delivered quality pools that stand the test of time.
Brothers Rob and Ben personally manage every job from start to finish, working closely with skilled, reliable tradies who take pride in their work. With regular industry award-winning builds, the quality of freestyle pools truly stands out. Experience, craftsmanship, and service you can trust. Freestyle Pools Sydney, built for life.
I was pretty much decided for me to play baseball when I was born.
The Sandlot's where it all starts, doesn't it?
I wasn't big than everybody. I just threw harder.
It doesn't take any talent to hustle.
If you don't pull for the Dodgers, there's a good chance you may not get into heaven.
Something happening here.
We're back with former Major League catcher Chris Snyder on the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast. The Sandlot is where everybody plays. The Sandlot is presented by Terramar Collective. Well, and I got to tell you, I've talked to a lot of big league pitchers, including Trevor Hoffman and Adam Wainwright. They don't like it, and their catchers didn't do it. And some of the greatest catchers in the history of the game, including yourself, you didn't do it. So I'm wondering if the best catchers in the history of the game never did it. Johnny Bench, he must be just dying because it is a completely different style. Unless you're super athletic, I don't think you're nearly as effective behind there as you could be if you just caught traditionally. And I think we will find that they haven't stole that many strikes doing it. And if anything, it's harder for the pitcher. And that's what Trevor Hoffman said, man, my catcher set up down where I wanted to throw it and held it there. And I threw it to there. And it made it easy for me. I go, I don't know. He goes, I don't know how effective I would be with somebody moving that target.
Yep. Yeah. It's, I think with the ABS coming into play next year, you're not, as a catcher, you're not fighting for, white line to white line anymore because the umpires are graded on it. They're not expanding out of the zone. I mean, I'd have, I'm catching a Randy Johnson or Levon Hernandez, veteran guys that have earned, 20 inches as opposed to just the 17 on the plate. They've earned that. Guys like that, you don't get it anymore. Like a Clayton Kershaw should be line to line if he's establishing the zone, but even a guy like that, he's not going to get it. If it's in the box, it's a strike. If it's not, then sorry. I don't care how good the kid made it look.
Yeah, so I think maybe it will go back to just hold it there, stick it, because it is in the zone. Don't be jerking it.
Yep.
I just remember, and I've been teaching baseball a long time. I teach the same old-fashioned way, and then subtle movements, like you said. When you stick it, that means it was a perfect strike. If you give it a little bit of a subtle movement into the zone, that is respectable to the umpire, but it also does turn that 2 inches off the plate. It really does look like a strike. But let's not try to make a pitch that's 6 inches off the plate look like a strike. And just everything, I think everything coming into that center bullseye is, for me, it's unnecessary. And I tell my kids, the young guys, the teenagers, and even the younger ones, if it's in the zone, just make it look good. There's no reason to bring it up, bring it into the center. Look, man, it's not a coffee can strike zone. It's the zone for a reason. Just keep it in there. Yeah, it's 17 inches, and depending on the height of the batter, you got some up and down to work with, and keep it in there, and don't make pitches that aren't in there try to look like strikes. It's an insult to the umpire. It's an insult to the hitter. And I don't think it helps anyone. So since I started watching that, I've wondered who made the decision. Why is everybody doing it? I see more pass balls and wild pitches now.
Yeah, that's the big A word again. I think that here's what, if you're giving up 90 feet from first to second and second to third, I would like to say the percentages are still in your favor of that run not scoring. You see stolen bases are down. All the running game is down. The National League style of baseball is gone. So I tell my guys that it will happen from time to time. We will give up the 90 feet from first to second, second to third. If you're less than 2 outs and you're giving up that 90 feet from second to third on a pass ball or a ball that should be blocked, we're going to have words. Now, if that 90 feet given up is from third to home, on a pitch that you're down on a knee that you could have put yourself in a better position for, we're going to have serious words.
Yes. And
so those are mean, that's the tough spot right there. And you see it because they can turn on the World Series and there's guys doing that. I mean, every run is important in any game. You know, you tell a team that missed the playoffs by one game what run was not important, then there's no way. Every single run is important. So it's tough. It's definitely it makes it tough for me coaching and teaching, but you have to adapt.
Back in the day, you guys were taught to block everything that was in the dirt, and now you're taught to pick everything that's in the dirt. And it's the percentage it's just, to me, it's not there. I just seen so much more bad catching with the new style. So anyway, we're not going to harp on it for too long, but being a big league catcher, I wanted your perspective. Real quick, Chris, we want to know big league guys that you mentioned Randy Johnson, you mentioned Brandon Webb, Cy Young Award winners. Give me a couple other guys that you've caught that you were just like, man, this is different. This is special. This is another level.
So before I even got to pro ball, and this goes back to high school, I went to the same high school, played for the same high school coach as Roger Clemens. So Rocket would come out every year before spring training. He'd work out. We'd get to watch him work out. He'd throw batting practice, throw a bullpen, and I would get to catch his bullpen. And just seeing his size and just the stature of him and knowing, that he played at our high school. So we all knew, Roger Clemens, and this was going through the Yankees, Blue Jays, like when he was on. So doing that, a couple guys that come to mind towards the very back end of my career, when I was in AAA with the Orioles, I was in Norfolk, and I had Jake Arrieta before he got sent over to the Cubs, and I had Kevin Gausman, who was just working his way in. I think he was drafted maybe the year before with the Orioles. And those two guys, it was tough to catch them, I'm not going to lie, because they were all over the place. Like, everything was all over the place. Arrieta would throw 97, 98 miles an hour, a 55-foot fastball, and you're just getting peppered back there behind the plate. Gausman, split, same thing, 55 foot. But those two guys, to see what they accomplished through their careers and seeing where they were at when I had them, this was 2013. You're like, okay, these two guys, they definitely have the physicality of it. They have the mentality. They have all of it. And they both turned in great careers. One was World Series champion. I'm sure there's a couple Cy Youngs in there. So,
and Jake, there was a year that Jake was he was unhittable with the Cubs. There was one season that his stuff, when I'd watch him pitch, I was like, that's as good a stuff as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The late movement, 100%. The cut on, and then the run and the sink, all of it was off the charts, the movement that was happening.
Yep.
And Gausman had one of those 100-mile-an-hour arms and was figuring it out when you were catching him. And now he's honed it in, and he's the kind of guy that should win a Cy Young if over the next couple of years. He's got a chance.
Yep, I agree.
So Chris Snyder, longtime Major League catcher, I want to thank you so much for spending the time to be a guest on the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast. We're going to be back on radio this spring on Fox Sports Radio and MLB Network. But, man, I just really enjoy picking your brain, knowing, too, that you got kids that are playing and you're helping them and on their path. And that's a challenge when we're dads, because I did the same thing. Both my kids went to JUCOs and then on past that and tried to play independent ball and winter ball. So I watched it, and I did all the trips to Omaha and Wichita and Perfect Game this and Tucson that and Cooperstown Dreams Park and Wide World of Sports down in Florida, and I went to all of them, man.
Oh, sounds like my whole year.
17 tournaments, spring and summer combined, and meant you were going, and you're doing it now, so I admire it. And getting to see that, man, you can't put a dollar figure on what it's worth to watch those kids play baseball.
Exactly right.
And you're in a luxurious spot to be able to do that. And then, when they go on to college, you can think about getting back in the game. Because you're like I said before we started, you're a manager to me. You're a guy that ends up managing a big league team. And you got to pay your dues and start out in AA or something. But I see you doing that.
Oh, man, that'd be great. That'd be great. I would love it.
Well, again, Chris, I want to thank you for being a guest on the Sandlot.
All right, bud. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast. I want to thank today's guest on the Sandlot Radio Network Down Under podcast, former Major League pitcher from a small town in the Midwest called Hartsburg, Emden. and he made it all the way to the big leagues, Bill Sampen. We also had former Major League catcher, likely a future Major League manager, Chris Snyder. Remember, you can listen to the latest Sandlot Radio Network podcast Down Under every weekend on the Sirius XM Radio MLB Network podcast platform and on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Pandora, Apple Music, and Simplecast. Also, please explore the Sandlot Radio Network Facebook and Instagram pages for video content with the Major League players. Also, check out SandlotRadioNetwork.com website for photos and reels from our long history of covering everything from the Sandlot to the big leagues. The Sandlot has been presented by Terramar Collective and sponsored by the Sandlot Radio Network, Grit Sports Collective, Guzman y Gomez, GYG, the best Mexican in Australia, and Freestyle Pools Sydney, pools that withstand the test of time. The Sandlot is where everybody plays. It's a place of our own, it's our field, it's our neighborhood, it's our team, it's our home. I'm your host, Tad Powers.
Damn it, who typed a question mark on the teleprompter? For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
Is this heaven?
It's Iowa. Is there a heaven?
Oh, yeah. It's the place dreams come true.
Hey, Dad? You want to have a catch?
I'd like that.
Terramar Collective isn't just a brand, it's a tribute. Born from the Southern California coast and inspired by the legacy of a father who helped shape the board riding world literally. Terramar Collective repurposes vintage flannels and rare finds, blending timeless style with surf heritage. Honor the past, wear the story. Find us on Instagram at Terramar Collective.
GYG has just reinvented the Caesar with our new Caesar salad, Caesar burrito, and Caesar Cali burrito. And I bet you didn't know that Caesar was created in Tijuana, Mexico over 100 years ago by Caesar Cardini. And now we have made the Caesar uniquely GYG.
Crunchy Cos lettuce, free-range grilled chicken, or gourmet Caesar dressing, shredded jack cheese, and GYG's corn chips crushed. GYG Caesar, created in Mexico, reinvented by GYG.
When it comes to building your dream pool, experience matters. For 33 years, Freestyle Pools Sydney has delivered quality pools that stand the test of time. Brothers Rob and Ben personally manage every job from start to finish, working closely with skilled, reliable tradies who take pride in their work. With regular industry award-winning builds, the quality of Freestyle Pools truly stands out. Experience, craftsmanship, and service you can trust. Freestyle Pools Sydney, built for life.